story of the Sceafings and how the Sceafings came to be. And this is a story which goes back to the very, very, very beginning when there was a vast ocean. And from one direction flew an eagle, and from the other direction flew a raven. And they thought that they were alone, but from thought came the wooden carving of a child that floated on the water, and the carving of the child grew into a small boat, and in the small boat was a growing sheaf of corn and a man-child. And the boat, with its precious cargo, floated for some time until the boat came to the newly made land. And there on the newly made land were the first people, the first men. And the first people were wanderers. But they took from the boat the growing sheaf of corn, so they learned to grow wheat and bake bread. And from the growing sheaf of corn they learnt to grow barley and to brew beer. And the boy child that was in the boat, the name Sceafing, and sometime later Sceafing walked through the woods, and there he found the long dead body of a man. And as he knelt beside the remains of the long dead man, a tall hooded man appeared before him. You've already worked it out, haven't you? You already know who the tall hooded stranger is. I know you have. And as the hooded man placed his hand on Sceafing's head, knowledge, hard-won knowledge, seemed to pass from the old man to the young. And so it was that Sceafing knew how to take the bones and how to fashion them into a harp. And so Sceafing, who had already given the people the knowledge of baking and brewing, gave them the knowledge of music, the harper's art, and he taught them how to tell stories, how to pass knowledge and wisdom from one generation to the next generation with stories and with the harp. And so all was well. And Sceafing, coupled with a maiden who was dressed as the Earth Mother at harvest time. And so the two of them created a son, and that son's name was Shielding. And there came a day when Sceafing did what the hooded man bid him to do, which was he took his son down to the sea and placed him on a shield. And he set the shield adrift on the water with a burning candle at his son's head. And Sceafing watched as the shield with his son upon it floated through the ocean, and he watched as the sea goddess returned the gift to him, and the shield appeared on the beach at Sceafing's feet, and there, returned to him, was his baby son. And much later, his son fathered a son, and that son's name was Beowa. And there came a time when the crops failed. There was a drought. There was no rain. There was no wheat. There was no barley. And Scefa took Beowa to the field, and he took a reaping hook, and he made Beowa bleed, and he gave Beowa's blood and bones and flesh to the earth. So the next crop was bountiful, and Beowa arose from the fertile earth as a tall man with a long beard. If ever you sang the song of John Barleycorn, perhaps when you're at school, or perhaps you've heard it since, you'll kind of be familiar with that image. There came a time when Scefa realised that he was old in years. He had been king of the Sceafings for a long time, and it was time now for the younger generation to take over, and Scefa left his harp on the throne and went down to the beach, climbed into a boat and pushed the boat off into the ocean. And as the Sceafings stood on the beach watching the boat as it floated away, they saw Scefa light a pyre in the boat, and they saw their king float away from them, and they saw flames as the boat burned. And so the Sceafings carried on with their songs and their stories, and the knowledge passed from one generation to the next generation with the magic of the harp. And after some generations, a boat was washed up onto the shore, and inside it was a boy child. And the Sceafings named that boy child Scefa. And so the story continues as the story must. Story and the legend goes on, and the knowledge that All Father Woden gave us carries on with our stories. Hope to see you again soon.